So you want to become a millionaire, but you don't really know what exactly you should do. And you're going to YouTube and you're watching all these videos about how to become rich, how to invest in the stock market, how to become a millionaire. And I kind of stopped making videos for the last few months, but I still kept watching YouTube time to time. And people are still popping up a lot of content about wealth, about financial education, about becoming a millionaire. And it's very understandable because everybody wants to become a millionaire. Everybody wants at least to be financially independent, regardless of your background, regardless of where you are or who you are, because financial independence gives you something that nothing else will give you. It allows you simply to have peace of mind, raise a family, have kids, because without having a financial solid foundation, it's very difficult to raise a family because you will constantly have to worry about how are you going to put food on the table. But when you have that cash cushion, when you have that financial independence, it literally gives you that peace of mind that nothing else will give you. But that led me to ask myself a very simple question. And if you go to YouTube, all the knowledge that you need to become a millionaire already exists there in the world. I mean, there is nothing else to actually teach you. And yet most people are still living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, even if you kind of compare the knowledge that we have today, I mean, even if you compare like the standard of living that we have today compared to like 1970s, people for some reason lived a far better life back in 1970s than they used to have right now. And if you pull out the statistics, you will find out that back in 1970s, people could afford a house even when a single parent used to work in the family, which was the father all the time. I mean, not all the time, but most of the time. But today, when two parents are working, people still cannot just afford a house. Like most people in most of the states in the United States, for example, being able to afford a house is so difficult. So why do people, even though that they have all the knowledge in the world, are still living paycheck to paycheck? If you go back even like 100 years ago, most of the world's population literally had no access to the basic knowledge that you have today. I mean, you can right now pull out a video and you will gain more knowledge about how to become rich and build a business than someone could in their entire lifetime like 100 years ago. Like back in 1900s, only 20% of the global population were literate, which means that only 20% of the global population could actually read or write. And that's why the vast majority of people were farmers, because there was no other way. So back in the days, yes, there was a limited access to the knowledge, and only probably the top 1% or the top 10% actually had access to the knowledge that would actually make you a millionaire. And even when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I had limited access to the internet because things weren't as great as they are today. And my parents weren't really like entrepreneurs or financially independent for them to actually teach me how to become rich because they barely actually finished high school themselves. I'm not really blaming them for anything because they actually gave me everything they could possibly give me. But the fact of the matter is that I had to learn everything on my own. But today, anyone can simply go to YouTube, watch a single video about how to get rich, and you will literally learn all the knowledge that's out there. And the basic principles that actually made people rich back in 1900s, even 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 200 years ago, are very, very similar to the principles that will actually make you rich today. And the best example that I can actually give you is that now Jeff Bezos, which is one of the richest person in the world, and at some point he was probably the richest person in the world, like 2 or 3 years ago. And he built this company called Amazon, which is one of the largest companies and successful companies in the world. If you look at the way he actually built Amazon, and you can go to the letters by Jeff Bezos to shareholders, you'll find out that the basic principles that he used to build Amazon are very, very similar, if not the same, to the principles that 100 years ago, John Rockefeller actually used in order to build his oil empire. Like what Jeff Bezos did basically is that he convinced investors to build this e-commerce store in order to sell books online. But instead of taking that money and actually buying luxury cars or mansions, he reinvested that money back into the business, and then he grew the business over time. And over a period of 30 years, Amazon became one of the most successful companies in the world. Now, John Rockefeller did the exact same thing. He saved enough money in order to buy his first oil refinery. And instead of using the profits from that oil refinery in order to live a luxury life, he saved it up to buy his second refinery. And then he did the exact same strategy. He replicated the exact same strategy to buy his third refinery. And over time, over a period of a couple of decades, he built most of the refineries across the United States and built a monopoly in the United States. So the question is that if all the knowledge out there that exists about becoming a millionaire, especially in the world that we have internet, why don't we have more rich people? Why aren't there more millionaires? In fact, if you actually take a look at what's happening, it has never been as confusing as today as how to become actually rich. So the other day I was actually walking in the streets and I was kind of passing through a fast food chain, and there was a long queue of people who were actually trying to order fast food. And that got me to ask a very simple question. Don't these people know that fast food is actually unhealthy? Like, think about it for a moment. All those people who are actually in line in order to order that unhealthy burger, all of them know that that burger is unhealthy. And yet, all those people are still deciding in order to stand in that line for some time and order that burger, and most importantly, eat that unhealthy food. So, if they know how to stay healthy, if all of those people know how to be healthy, why don't we have more healthy people? I mean, think about that for a moment. Like, how do you actually become healthy? Imagine you're this fat guy who is obese, who is overweight. How does this fat guy becomes healthy? Like, how does this guy turns into this guy who is healthy, who is not maybe in a perfect shape, but at least in a fine shape where he's not overweight? All he has to do is that he needs to stop eating fast food, maybe stop eating unhealthy food, and just on top of that, just exercise every single day for 30 minutes probably. And in a matter of 2 or 3 years, probably, this fat guy is going to turn into this healthy dude. But if this guy wants to take it to another level, he simply can, instead of working out for 30 minutes a day, if he works out for an hour or 2 hours a day, in 2 years, this guy is going to turn into this guy who is fit, who has 6 packs, who has really nice arms. So let me ask you a very simple question. If the knowledge to become healthy is so accessible to everybody, and pretty much everyone in this world actually knows how to be healthy, why don't we have more healthy people in the streets? Why do we have statistics such as this? I mean, if you kind of take a look at the statistics, you'll find out that probably like half of the population in the United States are having what? Are obese, are overweight. 40%, like 40 million people of all the people in the United States are having diabetes. Cardiovascular diseases are pretty much affecting half of the Americans. So let me ask you a very simple question. Most of these diseases, I mean, the causes of these diseases are bad diet, not eating healthy food, and not exercising. So if everybody knows how to stay healthy, why don't we have more healthy people? And that's why it's never about the knowledge. Like, watching another video on YouTube about how to become a millionaire, how to become rich, is not going to help you. And even if Warren Buffett is going to come to you and he will literally sit down with you and he will tell you all of his secrets, guess what? You will not become rich. You will not become a millionaire. You will not become successful. And the fact is very simple. It's just because knowledge is useless if it's not applied. And most people today have all the knowledge in the world, but very few people actually apply that knowledge. And when it comes to actually becoming rich, becoming financially independent, the exact same logic applies here. So let's say, for example, that this guy who is, let's say, living paycheck to paycheck or doesn't have any penny in his wallet or basically poor, how does this guy turns into this guy who is driving a very nice car and let's say, for example, he's financially independent? The path to that is very simple. you have to follow a few basic principles, a few basic financial principles and rules. And over a course of 2 or 3 years, this guy who is today living paycheck to paycheck is going to become financially independent. It's as simple as that. I know that it's very difficult to believe this. I know that you want to tell me that it's not as simple as that. And you want to tell me that, no, there is some secret formula out there that you have to find somewhere on the internet that somebody is going to reveal to you. And you have to be lucky in order to find that out. And you have to be in the right place with the right people in order to become financially independent. All of those are your brain trying to rationalize your actions, because it doesn't want to accept the fact that the path to becoming wealthy is simple and it's very straight right in front of you, and you're simply not applying that knowledge. Because if you actually wanted to become financially independent, you would already be financially independent, but you don't have the discipline or the willpower or the self-control in order to take that knowledge and apply that knowledge into your life. Because if you have done that, you would already be not just healthy, but you would be financially independent. So if you're serious about becoming rich, if you're serious about becoming financially independent, you got to understand in your mind that it's never about the knowledge. Yes, that was the case 100 years ago. That was the case in the past. But that's no longer the case today. The case today is taking that knowledge and putting it into the real world. And that leads me to ask a very simple next question, which is, why aren't people actually applying that knowledge? Is it so difficult to actually put that knowledge into practice? And after talking to people and kind of analyzing people, I realized that for some reason, people think that they're special. They're different. Like when I talk to my friends and I tell them, why do you keep eating this nonsense? Why do you keep eating something that is extremely harmful to your health? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep drinking alcohol in the first place? Because alcohol is also kind of causing you all of these health problems. And the answer that I often get from people is that for some reason, people have convinced themselves that they're different. It doesn't apply to them. That if they wanted, they will stop drinking like this. If they wanted, they can stop eating fast food even today. It's not really a big deal. But they're not really doing that, and one day when the time comes, they will actually do it. And that is something that people don't realize, that I don't want to kind of be straightforward, because what I'm going to tell you might actually insult you and might actually make you feel bad. But the reality is that you're not special, and you have to understand that. You might be special in some way, but at the end of the day, you're subject to the exact same laws of biology, physics, and nature, just like everyone else. And if you go and eat unhealthy food, you will become unhealthy. I know that you don't want to believe that, and you might think that it doesn't apply to you, but it applies to you. If you drink alcohol, you will become unhealthy. If you smoke, you will become unhealthy. No matter how special do you think you are, it doesn't really matter. Nature doesn't really care about you. So the first thing that you have to do about yourself is that you should stop, you must throw the idea that you're special in some way from your head in order to start accepting the facts and start actually behaving in such a way that if I'm going to eat unhealthy, I will be unhealthy. So if you want to become financially independent, you cannot become financially independent if you don't build the right habits, if you don't follow this basic, simple financial principles in order to become financially independent. If you think that you can become financially independent and you're not saving money, if you think that you can become financially independent and you're not managing your money actively, if you think that you can become financially independent and you're not investing your money, then you'll just not become financially independent. It's as simple as that. And that's why if you kind of pull out the statistics, like everybody thinks they're special, but then if you kind of take a look at it, like vast majority of Americans don't even have like $500 in their savings accounts. Like nearly half of Americans don't own any stocks at all. Do you think that is a coincidence that like the vast majority of Americans don't invest in the stock market, and then the vast majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? Do you think that's a coincidence? Do you think that it's a coincidence that the vast majority of Americans, for example, are eating all this unhealthy food, and then the vast majority of Americans having all of these health problems? No, they are literally connected. Like, one is the consequence of the other. Like, the wealthiest 10% of Americans own 93% of all the stocks that are there in the market. So if you want to become financially independent, it's not just you going and finding some secret recipe out there on the deepest part of the internet, but literally following very basic, simple financial rules. Just like if you want to stay healthy, you have to follow some basic health rules. But because it's so difficult to actually put this knowledge into practice, and we don't want to do that, because getting the knowledge is much easier than applying that knowledge into the real world. So instead of fixing the problem, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to find something to blame. So for example, instead of actually stop eating all of that junk food, what we're trying to say is that, insurance is so expensive. Going to the doctor is so expensive. I'm not trying to say that these are not problems. These are obviously problems, but at the same time, you can avoid all of those health problems if you simply eat healthy. The same thing comes when it comes to the financial side. Instead of actually saving a portion of our income, investing in the stock market, for example, we are trying to blame the Wall Street. We are trying to blame the government. We are trying to blame everybody, but simply not act by ourselves. We don't want to take actions that will directly improve our financial condition or our health situation. But if you look around, there are still people who still manage to actually apply that knowledge into the real world and become financially independent and become rich and successful. There are people who take that knowledge and are living a very healthy lifestyle and are actually healthy. So what exactly determines who actually becomes rich and healthy and who doesn't become rich and healthy? And if you kind of zoom out and take a look at everything, you'll find out that your environment literally shapes your life, whether you like that or not. So if you have created the type of environment that will actually, where you're actually eating fast food, where you're eating all this junk food, where you're drinking soft drinks, where you're not exercising, then over time, that environment is going to lead you to become obese, where you will have heart problems and different kind of diseases. The exact same happens with your finances. If you have the kind of environment where you waste all of your money, where you don't manage your money, where you are not investing any kind of your money, what happens is that you will be stuck in this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle where you will barely be paying your bills. On the other side, if you build a different environment that will force you to take different kind of actions, then you will become healthy, you will kind of hit the gym all the time, you will be financially independent, you will be rich and successful the way you actually want it. So the way you actually design your environment today is going to lead you to take action. Because you have to accept a very simple truth, is that you can't be relying on your willpower all the time. You can't rely on your willpower today, tomorrow, but in a week from now, that motivation is going to disappear and you will go back to your exact same lifestyle. And when I say environment, I don't just mean like your friends and family. I mean everything. So for example, if you have installed on your phone social media, then you're more likely to use Instagram and Facebook and all other apps. If you have installed games on your iPhone, for example, on your MacBook, then you're more likely to play those games. If your friends, for example, go to the pub every single Friday and drink, then you're more likely to drink with them. And that's why, there is a saying that says that, tell me your friends and I will tell you who you are. Now, if you think that quote actually came out of nowhere, then you're mistaken, because there is a lot of wisdom in that quote. It literally tells you that your environment will shape you. And over the last few decades, there has been a lot of studies that has been done in order to prove the fact that your environment has the biggest impact on you. It has far more influence on your life than you can possibly think. And I've kind of linked 3 studies here, but there are far more studies in these 3. One of the studies that was very interesting is that the Rosetta effect. And the idea behind it was simple, is that researchers found out that there was one town in the United States where Italian Americans used to live. And heart diseases or any kind of diseases in that area was significantly lower than the rest of the United States. And that led these researchers to actually wonder. So they tried to study the communities, and they found out that these Italian Americans are also smoking, they're eating unhealthy food, just the rest of the Americans. But what was different with those Italian Americans is that if you know anything about the Italians, they really care about family. They have this strong bond with themselves. So what they do is that they quite often get together with large families, and they are very supportive, and they have this strong sense of community. And that strong sense of community where they support each other led them to actually be much more healthy mentally, and that affected their physical health. But over the next 50 years, what ended up happening is that they become Americanized, and they lost this strong sense of community, and heart and health problems within those communities simply rose to the same level as the rest of the United States. That's how impactful can be your environment. There are more studies. Like one of the largest studies that have been done about that, if your friends actually drink alcohol, then the chances that you will also drink alcohol is going to be around 80 to 90%. And there isn't just one study that has been done to prove this, but probably dozens, if not hundreds of studies. So if you think that you're special, again, it goes back to the very simple idea. Like I hear this all the time. For some reason, people want to believe that, no, it's not going to affect me. Yes, this study has been done. Yes, it's true. Yes, it works, but not with me. I'm special. Yes, my environment sucks. Yes, my friend drinks. Yes, my fridge is filled with junk food, but it doesn't matter. I still have this self-control. No, you don't. Your environment is going to have much bigger influence over your life than anything else. So if you want to actually move towards the financial independence, the first thing that you have to do is that the path to it is very, very simple, and it works all the time. And the path to it is that you use your self-control in order to create an environment that is going to lead to financial freedom. And over time, you're going to become rich and successful. It doesn't matter how you understand rich and successful. The way you put the goals in front of you, this is basically the very simple formula, and it works only like that. And ask yourself right now, how does your environment looks like right now? Like, take a look at your phone. You use your phone all the time, and it's filled with apps that distract you. You drive all the time through the fast food chain, and every single time, maybe not every single day, but quite often, you go through the fast food chain and you grab a burger. Your fridge is filled with junk food. Your friends are not the type of people who are actually encouraging you to save money, invest in the stock market. So you have built this environment that actively encourages you to actually become unhealthy and at the same time be poor. And that's why if your friends are broke, then you're most likely going to be broke as well. If your friends are interested in simply wasting their money every single Friday, then that is those kind of the habits that you're going to develop alongside with them. But some people might say that I have tried this, I have tried that, and it didn't work. I tried to save money for 3 months, but what happened is that I just saved like a few $1,000s at best. Or other people might say that I have tried to quit smoking, or I have tried to quit drinking for 6 months and it didn't work. What you need to understand about anything is that there is a very important concept in life that people know, but for some reason they ignore it all the time, and it's known as time. So whatever you do, if you stop drinking, if you start saving money, if you start eating healthy, the outcome of that is not going to happen tomorrow. It is not going to happen the next day. It's not going to happen 6 months from now. It can actually take years. Just like when you try to water a tree. I mean, if you water a tree for a month, nothing is going to happen. And sometimes it can take up to a few years for that tree to actually grow up. So you have to fundamentally change your lifestyle. You have to have different set of beliefs probably in order to have a kind of lifestyle that will actually lead you to financial independence. And that's another thing that people don't understand about very rich and successful people. Sometimes people ask themselves this question: this guy is already making so much money. He has all the money in the world. Why exactly he keeps working? Because that's his lifestyle. That's how he lives his life. Like he built an environment that continuously keeps making him rich, that continuously pushes him to take actions that will actually lead him to become wealthier and wealthier. While a lot of people who are actually living paycheck to paycheck, and I want to say everybody because I don't want to generalize, but the vast majority of people who are actually living that kind of a lifestyle have built this environment around themselves that will actually lead them to keep taking decisions that will actually lead them to stay poor, to stay where they are, to keep living this rat race and this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. So if there is one thing you want to take out of this video is that do not rely on your willpower. You can only use your willpower to actually create an environment that will actually push you to move in the right direction, and over time you'll just achieve that financial freedom. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.